So this communism is about social ownership.
Welcome to the Adam and Sheridan Show YouTube podcast numero 11.
Number 11, and we're in a different place because we're recording this a lot earlier than we normally do. So we had to adjust for the sun.
Yeah,
wonderful
it's
sun
bright
outside.
out.
It's a wonderful sun. And we weren't going to
And the reason why
in
we're recording it
studio.
earlier is because we normally record right after our radio show, and today we just phoned it in. We just totally breezed through it without
I didn't
trying.
even care.
So we're doing it way earlier. No.
I had no clue about the music until 2 minutes before we were recording. No,
Well, listen to the show
it was a
anyways.
great show. Yeah, we talk about a law in Oregon about higher education and how that might show kind of a tacit understanding of socialist concepts, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
They might not know that. The legislature of Oregon might not know that, but it does.
But today we're going to talk about the power of the people,
Yes.
because we've had a lot of people leaking information, Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden, of the most noted and some of the most hunted people. But we're going to talk about why people are giving that information away, what kind of faith that shows in everybody.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm not eloquent today.
Well, one of the criticisms that I hear so frequently of people who call themselves liberals or radicals is that, sure, socialism would be great, or workers' ownerships of the means of production would be fantastic, but unfortunately, people, especially Americans, are too stupid and lazy to actually accomplish anything, and therefore it's never going to happen.
I hear that so much. It's like, listen, I would be all for socialism, but these sheep?
Yeah.
Nothing doing. But that's completely not true, because everybody thinks, I'm all for it, everybody else is a crook.
Right. And if you look at the recent history of U.S. politics, I mean, just look at what's going on. The Occupy Wall Street movement has happened. The occupation of the Capitol in Madison, which led to the recall effort of the governor of Scott Walker.
Scott Walker.
Wisconsin. I have mental brain.
I'm glad that you have to take the fall for the freeze there, because
Yeah.
I didn't remember either.
There have been numerous strikes that have been going on that have not been reported on. I think the one major one was the Chicago teacher strike, where 25,000 teachers went on strike.
Several times.
Yeah, this is
Several
just in the
times,
past
folks.
couple of years. Now, they've all ended in failure. Now, the question is, why have they failed? Have they failed because people are weak, the masses are weak, or have they failed because the leadership of these movements have basically usurped the mass movements and brought it back into the Democratic Party or the establishment in some way, so that it just sort of dissipates into nothingness? How else do you explain Scott Walker winning the recall election? I mean, it's unheard of if you have a special election being called and then the governor actually wins.
Yeah.
So
and
it's a leadership issue, wouldn't you say?
It's possibly a leadership issue, but that wasn't the case with Occupy Wall Street. That specifically wasn't because they didn't have really a leadership. They were an amorphous group. They wanted to cover a lot of different issues. And there's certain sociological research which shows that people don't move unless they believe change can happen. So some of the movements with the leadership going to the Democratic Party and the establishment, that's what did them in. Some of them just people didn't believe that change was possible, which is what I believe happened with the Occupy movement. But it didn't happen with a lot of other movements, specifically in Egypt.
Now, in Egypt, as we all should know, the Arab Spring happened in February of 2011, and the dictator of Egypt, who had been ruling that country for 30 years, overthrown, and it was overthrown by a genuinely mass working class movement where the people of Egypt rose up and overthrew this brutal dictator. Now,
Knights in Tahrir Square had
Right.
been tear gassed and everything.
Now, unfortunately, there was a leadership vacuum, and what ended up happening was the Muslim Brotherhood, a very backward political party in Egypt, in the form of Morsi, came into power, U.S.-backed president. And what happened was a year later, the people of Egypt rose up again and they said, no, you have broken every promise that you've made, And we're tired of it. We are not going to tolerate it. And it was very refreshing to hear just regular people say, I'm going to leave my house, I'm going to leave my job, I'm going to leave my family, I'm going to go march in the streets because the president broke his promises. Now, wouldn't that be refreshing if every promise that President Obama broke, which the list is endless, we've talked about it on the show since we first started in 2010, if every one of those promises that was broke inspired people in this country to get up and march. And I think that could happen if we looked to Egypt and we were inspired by Egypt to say, hey, we're talking about one of the biggest mass uprisings in the history of humanity. Over 14 million people by some accounts of Egyptians, and if you take the entire country, were rising up. And I think that's powerful if the media were to actually cover it in that way. Instead of framing it the way they have been. I think that people would be more inspired.
People would be very inspired. But of course, the media is framing this as a loss for democracy because it was a democratically elected leader who was then ousted in the same way that the dictator was
and
ousted.
Unfortunately, we don't support the Egyptian military, and this will probably once again turn into elections that are controlled by the military, which of course is backed by the U.S. government. So,
which is not a good thing.
It's a leadership vacuum again.
But the problem is, a lot of people don't see that change can happen because of a populace rising. Now, the populace doesn't believe that in a little way too, because they haven't gone the extra step to say, okay, we'll organize ourselves. That's it.
You're right. That is the first
done.
step.
Yeah, we'll organize ourselves. We will run ourselves. We will take this country in our own way. They still say, okay, now we need to put someone else in power who we think will do probably a little bit better job
within the existing system.
Within the existing
which
system,
is corrupt and needs to be
Exactly
abolished. Right. And we just celebrated Independence Day, which is probably my favorite holiday from an intellectual perspective because
of free food and fireworks.
Especially that, and I haven't gained enough weight in the belly area. No, but it's my favorite because of what it actually celebrates, which is the Declaration of Independence. And in that document, it says not only are all men created equal, etc., but also that if the government becomes corrupt, then the people of that government or of that country have the right and the duty to abolish it.
Yes.
And to form a new government that is willing to live up to the standards of freedom.
Now, that document had a lot of problems. However, the overwhelming message is just saying we are free. You don't have to give us freedom.
We're free by our own hand.
Yes, exactly. So that's an important thing. And to further kind of let you know, there were 30,000 prisoners who were striking from 33 different prisons over. They're doing a hunger strike, refusing meals over solitary confinement. Now, they spend 22 and a half hours a day in complete solitary confinement in windowless small cells. What that means is 30,000 prisoners who don't get to see people organized and started refusing food to protest solitary confinement so they couldn't see people.
And here are their specific demands. I think these are just humane, common sense things. They're not asking for, a bidet in their cell. They're asking for certain things that are just, normal things. There are currently
Why does your mind jump to a bidet?
Well, anything that's French to me sounds luxurious.
A baguette.
Like the French fry. There are currently over 10,000 inmates. I'm reading from the World Socialist website. There are currently over 10,000 inmates in California that are held in some form of solitary confinement. One of the 5 core demands of the current hunger strike is that solitary confinement be limited to a maximum of 5 years, an extraordinary length of time for an individual to spend 23 hours a day in a small cell with no interaction. The other 4 demands are that, quote, adequate and nutritious food be provided, group punishments for individual actions and administrative abuse be eliminated, constructive programming be created and expanded for those in solitary confinement, and a program used to identify gang members which rewards individuals who provide information and other inmates be abolished. So these are not outlandish things. Just give us nutritious food, give us a freaking window,
And don't pit us against each other by punishing everyone for one person's actions and by rewarding people for, because what really happens is when someone informs on another inmate, that inmate is punished without ever being let know what he's being punished for, and so they can't defend themselves. So prisoners can actually lie to curry the favor of guards just so that they can get out of trouble themselves.
Now, we'll leave you on this note. If 30,000 prisoners in California can band together somehow in solitary confinement and organize and go on hunger strike, certainly those of us who are free can get off our asses and get into the streets and organize to maintain our current freedom.
You can't say asses.
Oh, that's only allowed on the radio?
It's only allowed on the radio.
All right, this has been the Adam and Sheridan Show video podcast on YouTube. You can catch us also. We have a Facebook page. We are available there. Please leave a comment in the space down below. We really want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Email us.
Email us adamandsheridanshow@gmail.com. We should really do the unison thing more often.
Yeah. We're on Twitter. You can tweet us.
At Adam and Sheridan. That was my deal.
And also check out our video podcast, our sound podcast for our radio show, which is now on SoundCloud. Unison. It's easy to do now when you're anticipating it, though.
I know, but I didn't actually think we were going to say it.
SoundCloud.
Yeah. SoundCloud.
All right, that's going to do it for us.
That's going to do it for us. Please rise up.
Yes, rise up. Be democratic. Read the entire Declaration of Independence, and of course,
stay active. Boy, these lights are freaking bright. I'm gonna look at the camera.
Look at the bacon. Oh, it's a bird like that. The man's hand.
I don't know.
Why am I
it's really
shoved off over here?
Because I think it's important to see me.
The camera's like, we need to adjust so that Sheridan is dominating the frame. Okay.
Danger Will Robinson. Is that what we're going for?
Yes. Even though I've never watched that show ever.
Don't you upstage me!
Doctor Who.
You never watched that show?
No.
That's crazy. That's not even right.
I just simply don't have the time.
That's not even right. I don't
so
have so much going on. I've got to go through
so many things to do. So much to read. So many bookmarks.
There's an album from 1967 that I have yet to hear.